If you are a Division 1 short-form content enjoyer such as myself, you might have come across some incredibly insensitive videos that contain old Eurodance songs in the background. Videos such as this, this, and this.
I'm gonna glaze my European niggas.
These videos have tens to hundreds of thousands of likes and shares, and correspond to an increase in support for fascism and far-right movements, particularly in some European countries. According to surveys from the Center for Sociological Research in Spain, support for an authoritarian form of government has risen among young people substantially since 2007, from 7 to 17% among those 18 to 25, and 5.5 to 17.5% among those ages 25 through 34. It seems like social media has a fairly large role in the reason for this trend, as videos such as the one shown earlier are easily accessible to young people. Today, we're going to explore these insensitive short-form videos, uncover why they might be using old Eurodance songs, and explain how the inclusion of Eurodance might be a signifier towards support for fascism, in spite of both the origins of the genre and the sometimes apparent lack of overt connection between the videos and fascism. We'll do this by looking at one song, Boom 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 by the Venga Boys, as an example of one Eurodance song that has been appropriated for use in far-right short-form content videos. I think this song is particularly interesting because of the Venga Boys' history with the anti-fascist movement, but we'll get into that in a little while. Oh, and by the way, I'll be calling these short-form videos Reels from now on, because most people use Instagram Reels, and that's where I've been finding this content in the first place. Alright, cool. So let's jump in. Okay, so before we get into how Boom 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 Boom, or Boom to the Fourth, as I will be calling it from now on, lends itself towards use in a fascist context, I think it is important to talk about the origins of the Eurodance genre. Eurodance first emerged as a genre in the mid to late 1980s, drawing inspiration from a variety of competing genres playing in underground club scenes. Some of these genres include, but are not limited to, Chicago house, acid house, hip-hop, disco, high energy, and techno. It's pretty easy to hear the influence of these genres on Eurodance if we compare them side by side, so here's some little snippets from Boom to the Fourth, alongside some snippets from those precursory genres. If you listen to the drum sounds in the Venga Boys song, you can hear that they are similar to I've Lost Control by Sleazy D, an acid house song.
I've lost control.
Both of these songs use Roland TR-808 drum machines for the kick, with the Venga Boys song using the 909 for some of the other drums. Acid house originated in Chicago and quickly gained popularity among young people in the UK, with notable founding fathers being the African-American trio Future and Charanjit Singh, a Bollywood music producer. Let's now listen to the melodic synthesizer component of Boom to the Fourth, which is likely inspired by high energy and techno music. We'll play it alongside the synths from Dancing Therapy by International Music System, a 1984 high energy song. High energy emerged as a subgenre of disco, in underground clubs in San Francisco and was both pioneered by gay men and exceedingly popular in gay clubs. One research paper even credits High Energy as intentionally presenting a more confident and energetic gay man as a response to the stigma surrounding gay men during the AIDS crisis. Returning to Boom 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 Boom, you can hear the influences of Chicago house in the catchy, prominent, aggressive female vocals, as they're similar to Sensation by Ron Hardy. Chicago house is where house music got its start, and none of that would have been possible without DJ Frankie Knuckles, an openly gay black man from the Bronx. He moved to Chicago and started a new wave of music at a queer, black, and Latin club called The Warehouse. Finally, if we listen a little more to the song, the melodic focus and general song structure are similar to those of the pop disco and Italo disco genres, with Faces by Clio and Roberto Ferrante being a good example of this. I won't play these songs together for time's sake, but I will link them in the description so you can check them out for yourself. Italo disco obviously had its origins in Italy, but surprisingly was most likely officially termed in West Germany. By now, it should be pretty clear that I've been hinting at the incredible extent of the melting pot that Eurodance emerged from. Eurodance took all these genres and molded them into a mainstream pop phenomenon in Europe. The music came to represent everyone because it came from everyone. It's almost like Eurodance could represent the pinnacle of multiculturalism. Fascism, on the other hand, while claiming to represent and uplift the masses, hasn't exactly had the best track record when it comes to multicultural acceptance. These facts seemingly place Eurodance and fascism on opposite sides of the lovingness spectrum, which makes the genre's current use both so fascinating and so ironic. I'd like to dive a little deeper into what fascism actually entails so that when we finally get to the song, we can focus entirely on how it lends itself to use in fascist short-form content. More broadly, fascism is a political movement that stems from the far right and seeks to institute authoritarianism and emphasize ultranationalism. Usually, this ultranationalism advertises itself as a unifying, populist movement that seeks to promote one country. We see this in fascist propaganda, such as the movie Raza, which is the Spanish director dictator, not director. He was the brainchild of the film, but he was the dictator of Spain. This was his sort of masturbatory film about recreating the one Spanish race. I say race in quotations because the notion of race in Spain at the time was less about skin color and more about Spanish culture. In the movie, Franco indicates that those who were part of the Spanish race were those interested in reinstating tradition in Spain. This brings me to the first, more aesthetic principle of fascism, something that permeated how fascism was first positioned to the people, that things used to be better. We see this all the time with slogans like "Make America Great Again" from the current Republican Party, and "France is back, Europe returns to life" from the French National Rally. Now, if we were to take a look back into American or French history, I'd say it'd probably be pretty hard to find a time period that was actually better for more than a few groups of people. Nevertheless, this strategy of recalling glory from a distant and vague past has been with fascist movements since their first founding. Julia Adini-Thomas, a professor at Notre Dame, writes in her Portable Concept of Fascism that fascist movements in the early 20th century didn't have any ethos, so they felt the need to anchor themselves and rewrite history as if they were always in it. It's like that one Alan Jackson song, "Remember When," except he's like talking his way back into an amnesiac's life. The point is, fascism relied on this superficial evocation of the past to gain popularity among the people. Remember this, because it's going to come up again. Interestingly, fascism also seeks to stake its claim on the future. In 1909, an Italian poet by the name of Filippo Marinetti published a work in a French newspaper, and he titled this work the Manifesto of Futurism. In this manifesto, Marinetti uses striking and aggressive language about the need to uproot the system and embark on a cultural revolution, one in which technological innovation is the basis for a new society, and one in which sacrifice may be necessary in order to bring about this change. Marinetti argues that we are already in a new age in which speed is king. On a similar note, Adini Thomas argues that technological developments that enabled faster communication prompted and accelerated the rise of fascism. In the Manifesto of Futurism, Marinetti also says, and I quote, "We will glorify war, the world's only hygiene, militarism, patriotism, the destructive gesture of freedom bringers, beautiful ideas worth dying for, and scorn for women." Besides the fact that this guy clearly got his heart broken, and may be the first proud chud of the 20th century, these ideals line up very closely with how we defined fascism earlier. Futurism was perhaps too set on destroying the past for the taste of many fascist dictators, and was rejected by fascist regimes as a result. However, fascism took futurism's enthusiasm for modernity and innovation. For example, Hitler promised German rearmament after World War I. Mussolini sought to modernize Italy through state control over the economy, and now Trump is seeking to win the AI race, whatever that means. And so, we see fascism as trying to ground itself in some mythic past to gain support from older populations, while simultaneously relying on the excitement of technology in the future to capture the hearts and minds of the younger generation. Interestingly, if you actually think, just for a second, about whether it would actually work to bring back the past by trying to assert oneself as the face of the future, fascism's whole facade would just fall apart. How the hell would investing in the surveillance state, children bombing, Palantir GPT AI bubble possibly bring back the good old days? Especially when those good old days never existed. And yet, it is enticing, incredibly so, to promise everyone everything, put the blame on one outgroup of people, and play to people's desires to have an easy way out. This is especially true when a country's constituents are too busy trying to survive to think critically about a policy. We saw fascist movements gain massive support in the poverty and desperation of early 20th century Italy and Spain, the hunger of post-World War I Germany, and the rural citizens of the US who felt that they were being left behind. In the early 20th century, there was no precedent for fascist aesthetic, obviously, because it was a new political movement, with no previous material to rely on, no true historical past to draw inspiration from, and no art form that expressed the future that the fascist movement wanted it to be expressed. Early fascist propagandists had to appropriate art styles for themselves. Remember, futurism was a little too radical about upending tradition for fascist ideals to fully align. So, fascist propaganda took bits and pieces from everywhere, prioritizing function and efficacy over an explicit aesthetic. But, if fascist propaganda is all about function, how does incorporating Eurodance into fascist reels enable more effective propaganda? Now that we've contextualized Eurodance and laid down a framework for how fascism tries to garner support from both the young and the old, I think we can establish some meaningful connections. I'm going to split this analysis up into two categories: retrofuturistic sound selection and reinterpretable lyrics. For each category, we'll look at Boom to the Fourth and also some other popular Eurodance songs from the 90s and 2000s. I've made a playlist, which I'll link in the description of this video, that has a bunch of popular Eurodance songs that I've used in fascist reels. I've seen used, sorry. Alright. I think the main sonic element that establishes Eurodance as a temporal moment is the unregulated use of the synthesizer. In fact, the distinct Eurodance sound is so focused that I originally thought that the genre's heyday was only like 5 years long, not 20. I assumed that music evolved too quickly for songs of such similar DNA to be released so far apart in time. To illustrate this, let's listen to two different songs: Rhythm is a Dancer by Snap, released in 1992, and Kiss Me Again by Roy B. from 2009. I want you to listen for the walking synth arpeggio, which should be pretty easy to hear, but also the synth bass.
Rhythm is a dancer, it's a source companion. People feel it everywhere.
I remember one day, maybe it was the first day of my life. You came to my heart, my eyes wide open to you. I feel warm behind you, take my hand inside. Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me again.
Other similarities between Eurodance songs, such as the 4 on the floor kick pattern, the sidechain synth bass, the plucky acid synth stabs, and perhaps most importantly, the presence of strong female vocals, all serve to restrict the collective memory of Eurodance to a tighter period of time.
If you're alone and you need a friend, someone to make you forget your problems, just come along, baby, take my hand. I'll be your lover tonight.
Maybe somebody with a little more time on their hands could write a function between the number of idiomatic sonic elements in a sample of a few songs and the perceived range of release dates for those songs. So we've successfully set up that this genre feels restricted to a certain moment in the past. But this doesn't serve the fascist cause unless it asserts a positive view of the past while still sounding like it's aiming for the future. Dance music is meant to make you feel good. So Eurodance is already off to a good start with regard to propping up the past. And luckily, I have parents, so I was able to prove the general statement, dance music is meant to make you feel good, when I decided to play my Eurodance playlist for my mom in the car. Every song that came on was accompanied by an OMG, this would come on all the time at the club. It was so much fun. Man, the 90s were such fun times. Crime was low in New York City and everybody just wanted to dance and party. Things were so much better back then. If we listen to Boom to the Fourth, we can hear why my mom and others would express this sentiment. The song is serious fun because every sonic element is singable. You could sing along to the bass and pluck that hit on the upbeat. You could sing to the synth solo after the chorus. Obviously, you could sing along to the sung parts, whether it's the female lead or the vocoder guy ad-libbing around. But even the drums feel vococentric. It's fun and easy to beatbox this song. Now, listening to all these parts again, it's obvious that music technology was central to making this song what it is. By creating these non-acoustic sounds, synthesizers have often symbolized the future. Many science fiction movies have used this abstraction from acousticity to their advantage by making synth central to their scores. Eurodance evokes the future by incorporating electronic sounds into every layer of the song. I think the best example of this is the vocoder. The vocoder is literally digitizing the human voice, and in a world where robots and AI are a collective idea of the future, it's clearly a sign of trying to emulate what's coming. While Boom to the Fourth uses a vocoder, not every Eurodance song does, but almost every Eurodance song has a sawtooth wave, yesterday's sound, for describing tomorrow. This waveform is bright, loud, and the fundamental EDM synth lead. Its heavy use in EDM has connected it to futuristic sounding music, and its stinging quality makes it bold, the perfect timbre to underscore a fascist vision for the future. Let's listen to Le Mort Toujours, which I definitely butchered, by Gigi D'Agostino for a glimpse into the unwavering futurism of the saw wave. So, we've established that the sonic elements of Eurodance songs emphasize the same double-sided past and future combination as does the fascist movement. But what about these songs' lyrics? Funnily enough, the lyrics of Boom 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 are probably about prostitution. Here's the first verse. If you're alone and you need a friend, someone to make you forget your problems, just come along, baby, take my hand, I'll be your lover tonight. And here's the chorus. Boom, 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 boom. I want you in my room. Let's spend the night together from now until forever. So, clearly about, prostitution. Anyway, fascism is a populist movement. In turn, it feeds on this idea of the masses. Therefore, in order to have a successful populist movement, you need support from the masses. Eurodance is so often about trying to convince people to engage in acts of love, like Boom to the Fourth, was talking about prostitution, club music as well, by nature of wanting to be singable, usually doesn't end up having super complex lyrics. Unfortunately, this is a recipe for fascist appropriation. The Venga Boys calling you to take their hand becomes reinterpreted as the fascist movement calling you to do so. With many Eurodance songs centering the female voice as the one calling you to action, the call becomes especially seductive to the Filippo Marinettis of the world. Let's listen to a bit of Better Off Alone by Alice DJ. For what used to be a love song, the question, do you think you're better off alone, ends up becoming a pretty on-brand phase for the populist movement. And so, by virtue of simply being Eurodance, the genre becomes susceptible to another round of fascist art thievery, as these club love songs with multicultural origins became the backdrop for far-right, hateful memery. Now that we've unraveled how Eurodance lent itself towards appropriation, I think we should look at a few more of these fascist memes to understand how Eurodance is becoming a dog whistle. Now, this reel on its own is honestly making a very fair point about the US needlessly sending money to Israel instead of focusing on American citizens. Despite what you think about foreign aid in other places, like Ukraine, it is more likely than not the correct viewpoint to not want to fund a tyrannical, genocidal regime that has used the same lie about Iran's nuclear capabilities in order to get the US involved for the past 30 years. So, on the surface, this reel is generally harmless. Maybe a little isolationist for my tastes, but people are free to have their own beliefs. This is America, and this reel certainly does not enter the realm of hate speech. The background music, however, tells you a different story, because this genre of music has become a dog whistle for more hateful views and for fascist content. By simply looking at the other videos by this content creator, you can see that the anti-Israel sentiment comes not from a hatred of Israel's imperialist policies, but from the fact that Israel is a predominantly Jewish country. The other reels on this page are overflowing with anti-Semitism, and in the current political climate, where horseshoe theory seems incredibly viable for the Israel issue, Eurodance has become a signifier to parse out true motivations. At some point, it seems almost intentional though, as if Jews are seeing increased hate on social media platforms on purpose. By pairing anti-Zionist content with anti-Semitic content, you're discrediting the good intentions of the pro-Palestinian movement by intentionally conflating it with hatred for Jews, while giving Israel the ability to once again position itself as the victim. But there isn't any thorough way to prove the country of origin of these videos, so making a more serious claim would start to head into conspiracy territory. There is plenty of original, hateful content by people who are not like false flagging. Okay. Now, there are thousands of these fascist videos with dozens of different Eurodance songs accompanying them, so why did I choose to talk primarily about the Venga Boys song? Well, as it so happens, the Venga Boys actually have a very explicit connection to the anti-fascist movement. After a political scandal in Austria, people started using the Venga Boys song, We're Going to Ibiza, to protest government corruption involving exchanging public contracts with foreign investors for campaign support. The Venga Boys caught wind of this and expressed their support for the protests. This irony furthers my proof of the extent to which the fascist propaganda machine appropriates with no regard for context. Part of what makes fascism so scarily powerful is that it approaches you from a place of familiarity. It markets itself as relatable and for the people, and does so by taking the form of something you like, regardless of what that art form previously meant. The fascist aesthetic is one of tireless and infectious repurposing and rebranding. In doing so, it's actually been surprisingly effective at garnering support for authoritarianism. A 2024 survey by the Public Religion Research Institute, or PRRI, found that 40% of Americans and 67% of Republicans scored highly on the right-wing authoritarianism scale. This is a concerningly high figure, and the prevalence of these toxic short-form videos is certainly not helping. We are all tired, overworked sailors, and we must not fall victim to the siren song. Okay, that's pretty much all I have. So let's just recap what we've gone through in this video. We've made the claim that Eurodance is particularly susceptible to being appropriated into internet fascism. Its futuristic soundscape, paired with its nostalgic evocation of the past, parallels fascism's attempt to idealize a mythic past while promoting militarism and modernization through technological innovation. We explored the multicultural origins of Eurodance through its precursory genres. Given these origins, it is especially ironic and especially tragic that Eurodance has become a dog whistle for hateful and fascist short-form content on the internet. We then used Boom 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 by the Venga Boys to justify our claims. The world of this song, which is coincident with that of so many other Eurodance songs, has shifted from imposing a fun legacy on dance music to one in which it is used to create hateful content and to generate support for a dangerous belief system. I hope you've enjoyed this interdisciplinary deep dive and maybe learned a thing or two. Once again, the link to my playlist of Eurodance songs will be in the description below, as well as Faces by Clio, and the script with links to my sources. Alright guys, thanks for watching.